Hello and welcome to the Football Parliament podcast, your one stop destination for all your football debates, opinions, and discussions. We are half a month away from the start of the Euro 2020, and the squads are coming out. Most recently, the Spanish national team, which has caused a lot of controversy. Thus, for today's podcast, I'm joined by Varun, our guest for today, along with Vedant and Tanish. Welcome, guys. What are your thoughts on the Spanish national team? Starting with Tanish.
I think this is a reasonably strong squad. I think except for the omission of maybe a proper number 9 or a lack of a proper number 9, I don't think there's any problem with this squad. I think the defense looks solid. The midfield, as always, Spain's midfield is very solid. And the forward line looks a bit weak, but at the same time, not a big deal, really. So I'm very impressed with this squad.
The squad does look solid, but one thing that is observed is the absence of a single Real Madrid player in the entire national team. I think for the first time in its history. So you've got a Real Madrid fan over here. Your views with that?
See, before I list out the reasons why Real Madrid players aren't here, I'll just talk about the Spain team. And even without Madrid players in the squad, they're a pretty good team, to be very honest. You can clearly see the midfield depth and um, the players, especially defense is solid. The midfield, a lot of technical talent with the ball. Then even forwards, if you notice, Ferran Torres is a world-class right winger or right midfield, whatever. Morata is a great striker. Then Gerard Moreno had a great season with Villarreal too. So Spain is a great team still, even without a Real Madrid player. And now coming to the Madrid part. Before I list out the reasons as to why Real Madrid players haven't been called up for the national team or national duties, I'd just like to list the Real Madrid players who play for Spain are Sergio Ramos, Nacho, Asensio, Lucas Vasquez, Dani Carvajal, Alvaro Odriozola, and now Dani Ceballos because his loan spell has ended with Arsenal and he's back at Real Madrid. Sergio Ramos was injured for most of the season, rather say 70% of the season. Although when he played, he was great. But Enrique and Ramos had a conversation where the decision was that he won't play, so that he's back at 100% for the next club or Real Madrid when he plays again. Then, just giving a statistic, Sergio Ramos has only played 2 La Liga games this year in 2021, and only 4 games in total in 2021. Lucas Vasquez has suffered a posterior cruciate ligament injury, which keeps, I don't know how much time do players take to recover from that injury, probably half a year or something. And so that's also understandable. Dani Carvajal has a thigh injury, which keeps him out for more than a month. So there's a reason for that. Dani Ceballos hasn't been decent for Arsenal, not to mention that their entire squad, Arsenal squad, isn't decent either. Now coming up to two players, Asensio and Nacho. Nacho had a great season. I'd give some stats to you all, but they're also favoring him. So there's no point of giving some statistics for Nacho. He's had a great season. Even if you talk to a football fan who's not watched much of Real Madrid, you'll clearly know that yes, he'll agree with the fact that Nacho is a great centre back and has been great this season. Talking about Marco Asensio, the point with what Madridistas or Madrid fans are making here is that the likes of Sarabia or Traore have been called up when Marco Asensio had a decent, or I'd say like an average season. Pablo Sarabia has scored 4 goals or 5 goals with 4 assists. He's a right winger, and Adama Traore has 4 goal involvements in 37 games. I mean, sometimes statistics don't do justice to players, but clearly you can see that. I mean, here at least, uh, Adama Traore and Sarabia aren't that great enough to play for the Spanish national team. If being called up is a different thing and starting is a different thing, they're not starting for sure.
Varun, many Barcelona players over here, or at least more than Real Madrid. So what are your views on the Spanish team?
I would completely understand that the reason why Gerard Piqué has been removed, even though he has had an exceptional amount of minutes this year, despite being hit with a thigh injury that forced him out for 2 to 3 months. I don't think he has provided that defensive pivot that Spain is looking for. At least looking at Barcelona's performance in La Liga, and more than anything else, he's old now. And as we see this Spain squad, it's relatively pretty young, which is why I believe he would not really fit in well. But it's kind of like a
Varun,
50-50.
Varun, just
Yeah.
to cut you in, I'd just like to pinpoint that in 2018, Gerard Piqué had taken retirement from Spanish national team.
Okay. Sorry, cut that out then. If not, yeah. So yeah, all I can say is that Pedri over here and he's relatively inexperienced. Sure, he's 18. He has been a great talisman for Barcelona when it comes to playing in the midfield. He might have been their go-to midfielder this season. But in my opinion, the amount of minutes that he has played, even for an 18-year-old youngster, it's unhealthy. Which is why I think he might be rested for a lot of games, but he will be called in, be it as a sub. And I was kind of a little bit shocked when Marco Asensio was omitted from the Spanish squad. The reason for that is that he's a super sub. Anytime he comes in, he can provide an assist, he can give a goal, he can get the team back into momentum to ensure that they get a goal. So in my opinion, that was the only shocker. Rest everything is fine. Busquets fits in well in my opinion, because of his experience. So yeah.
Well said. I've been hearing a lot of people who are criticizing Atma Traore's selection as Vedant did right now. Uh, I think Traore, if you look at his career graph from the last 2 seasons, he is one of those players who was very hyped at the start, but then at the start of the season, he almost became the narrative around Adma Traore became that he is an overrated player. If you actually see now with what people think about him, I'm starting to feel that he's more of underrated player right now. If you look at his abilities, many of his abilities, pace, strength, they are unmatched in the Premier League. Dribbling, look at his speed, look at his, and best part is I can see Spain playing a formation or a system which does need someone like Traore, especially if you see the other players around him who might be lacking in the aspects which Traore excels. His shot creating actions in the Premier League, his dribbles completed. In my opinion, he's probably been one of the best roles players along with Pedro Neto. But people are just going to see the number of goals or contributions that he's made, which is quite unfair for a wing back especially. Moving on, Tanish, how do you see Spain lining up? Preferred starting 11.
For me, if I was Luis Enrique, I would go with the three at the back simply because they don't have a proper established right back. First of all, which is extremely surprising given the presence of someone say like Jesus Navas. But I can understand why he has not been selected. But on the other hand, he has to counteract that defensive weakness. So I think he'll go with the three at the back. So probably Azpilicueta as a right centre back and Adama Traore as the right wing back. So you get a lot of pace, a lot of strength, and a lot of defensive solidity as well from the two. So 3-4-3 in my opinion, or a 3-4-1-2, or however he would want to change it or tweak it. But I want to see Spain do something different, and I want to see Spain actually try focusing more on a rather direct form of football, because a lot of times why they have failed after the retirement of Xavi, Iniesta, etc., is because they have kept a lot of the ball, but they haven't been clinical enough or decisive enough or things like that. So that is why Spain has struggled in the international stages in recent times. So I want them to be more direct instead of they can modify the identity is
Yeah.
basically what I'm trying to say.
It's actually a very good point. Three at the back would make a lot of sense because if you look at the players, Adma Traore is great as a right wing back. Jordi Alba is great as a left wing back. You've got Azpilicueta who's been called up, I think, for the first time since 2013, if I'm right. He's great as a right centre back. The same might not be said as a right back. And you also got other quality centre backs like Aymeric Laporte, Pau Torres, and Eric Garcia somewhat. So if you actually see a three at the back or a two wing back system would actually favor them a lot. Vedant, apart from the back five or a back four, how do you think Spain's midfield and forward options should look like?
See, Spain is really gifted with talented and technical midfielders. If you look at their midfield, you can clearly see the names of Dani Olmo, Fabian Ruiz from Napoli, Mikel Oyarzabal, who is very technically gifted. Varun knows that. Then there's Ferran Torres, who can play as a wide midfielder too. Then there's the availability of in my opinion, a generational talent, Pedri. And Thiago is also there with the experience, although he hasn't had a great season, but he's also there available. Koke, the Atletico Madrid captain, lifted La Liga this season, absolutely key for them. Then there's also Rodri Hernandez, who's a great holding midfielder. So I think that Spain will go for a 4-1-4-1. That has been their formation in their recent games, like in their last 6 to 7 games. Three at the back isn't actually the Spanish style, and they haven't really played a three at the back. Although I won't be surprised if Luis Enrique goes for a three at the back. Just saying. Then what I feel is that they're gonna go for a 4-1-4-1, and at the CDM role we could clearly see a battle between Rodri Hernandez and Busquets. So there's a duel right there. Then at left midfield, you can clearly see Mikel Oyarzabal or even someone like Pedri being available. So I think Mikel Oyarzabal will start alongside Koke will also have a spot in my opinion. Thiago's experience will also come in handy, and he might even start because although he had a tough season with Liverpool, but I think he deserves a start. I mean, the experience he carries, then uh, a lot of stuff he carries. Apart from that, at right midfield, there is Ferran Torres available and Gerard Moreno. So there can be a key change between them. So midfield isn't somewhere where Spain lack. They have a lot of depth there. That's what I see happening. And I think Morata will be the striker here. And if Morata isn't there, it's going to be Pablo Sarabia or Gerard Moreno at the striking position.
Varun, looking at Spain's squad and their group, where do you see the Spanish national team finishing in the tournament?
Okay. Before I actually comment on how they might finish up in the Euros, I would just like to point out how they can even play around with the 4-1-3-2 formation. Um, Aspilicueta can play along with Emerick Laporte as centre backs. Jordi Alba, he's always been clinical as a left back, and Traore can play as a right wing back, or even a right back if that's possible. Considering the versatility of his football, um, at the one defensive midfield, it's Busquets. That's a no-brainer. In my opinion, at in the midfield, it would be Thiago, it would be Rodri, and it would be Koke. Rodri, he's even though he might not have played a lot of games with City, he still has that youngster vigor that a lot of teams require in order to ensure that they can make it through and they can play short passing football in the opponent's half. And in the two forwards, in my opinion, it should be Morata and Gerard Moreno. I chose Morata because his international record has been much better than his club record. It has been evident in a lot of friendlies that Spain has played. And Gerard Moreno, he has had a great season currently um, with uh, with his team, which is Villarreal. They're currently going to play in the Europa League final, and he has scored 23 goals in 33 games in La Liga. So that's a great stat. It would make him a great striker. Um, Coming up to where Spain might finish up, they have, as long as Enrique plays his tactics correct, as long as he utilizes his players correctly, I see them going up till the semi-finals at least because of the reputation that they have, the experience that they have, along with a little bit of the young talent that they have. If there's a great mix of that, they can go up to the semi-finals comfortably, in my opinion.
Semi-finals can happen. Tanish, do you have something to add?
I think this Spain team, it looks really, really strong on paper at least. And I've seen the way Luis Enrique wants to play, and I was very encouraged by his selection as the Spanish manager. I think they will go all the way to the finals, and they will lose to maybe Portugal because I really think Portugal are the favorites. But I see them going all the way to the final, definitely.
Tanish, can you repeat yourself? The last part, I didn't hear you properly.
Yeah, I said that they will be going all the way to the finals, and they might lose to Portugal.
Oh, that's a nice prediction. What I feel is that Spain will comfortably sail through the group and they'll have the first spot along with Sweden. I feel that they'll get eliminated in the quarters or semis, mainly because of their recent performances in major tournaments.
Let's see, I personally feel that after the 2018 disappointment, it would be another disappointment for the Spanish team, something like maybe the 16 or the quarters. But we will see come, I think, 16 to 17 days from now. But that would be it for today's podcast. For more top quality football content, keep listening to the Football Parliament podcast. You can also listen to us on other platforms like Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Apple Podcast. So for today, that is it. Thank you.